Diane Baker was only 25 years old when she took the set of Marnie in 1963. She was excited to work with the famous Hitchcock. She had no idea that she was getting involved in the worst crime in Hollywood history. She listened quietly for decades as other people told their stories of what happened. Now that I'm 86, finally, she's telling what happened in those dark days. The personal care, the one-on-one coaching, and the shocking find in Tippi Hedren's dressing room that turned everything around. She was born in Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital on February 25, 1938. Dorothy Harrington was her mother. She was only 19 years old and had been in films like Animal Crackers and Monkey Business. The time Diane was born was during a big event in Hollywood. Dorothy gave birth at Grauman's Chinese Theater during a presentation. Some say Clark Gable led her to an ambulance through the crowd. After only a few hours, Diane was born. Dorothy went back to work on a movie set 2 weeks later and brought Diane with her. From the beginning, Diane's life was full of Hollywood. She was too young to remember, but by the time she was 3, she had already been in 2 films. Diane met famous actors as a child because of her mother's ties. There was a party when she was 5 and sat on Humphrey Bogart's lap. She had no idea who he was. Diane's family moved to North Hollywood in 1941, just as World War II started. Their house was close to Republic Pictures, a studio that made Western films. Diane loved lying in wait on the set to watch scenes being filmed. Someone saw her when she was 9 years old and gave her a small part in a Roy Rogers movie. She wanted to act even more after getting that small part. Her family moved again in 1950, this time to Studio City. The new house they bought was right next to CBS Studio Center. She watched stars come and go in the afternoons. She met Lucille Ball one day while she was making I Love Lucy. Diane was shocked when Lucille asked her to watch a recording. That event made her want to be an actor even more. Diane left Hollywood when she was 18 years old to try her luck in New York City. She got on a bus with just her hopes and $200. It was hard in New York. She shared a small flat with 3 other girls and worked as a waitress to make money. As a child, she hoped to be like the famous Broadway stars she worked with. Diane worked hard, even though things were hard. She learned how to act from a tough teacher who pushed her to her limits. She also did dance lessons until her feet hurt. Diane worked hard because she knew it would help her become the actor she wanted to be. It was by chance that she got her big break. In 1958, she worked as a waitress and one day served Darryl Zanuck, who was the head of 20th Century Fox. He saw her and asked her if she had ever done anything. He asked Diane to do a screen test after she told him about her training. The test turned out well, and after just 2 days, Diane made a deal with the company. The deal was interesting, but it had strict rules. She had to fix her teeth, change the color of her hair, and lose weight. Also, she couldn't be seen in public with any guy who wasn't married or engaged. Back then, these rules were part of how companies kept their stars in line. Diane didn't let any of that stop her, though. She was just starting out in her job. She was ready for the next thing that would happen. Diane Baker got her start in films with The Diary of Anne Frank when she was only 21 years old. Margot Frank is Anne's older sister, and she played her. It didn't look like her first movie because she was so good in it. People from the acting world hired her, and she had to work hard for months. She lost 15 pounds to look like Margot, who was skinny. At first, George Stevens thought Diane could play Anne, but he changed his mind because she looked too grown up for that part. The movie was a big hit when it came out in March 1959. It was even up for 8 Oscars. People who saw Diane act loved how real and emotional it felt, and some even called her a natural talent. It wasn't easy to make the movie. Diane went to a special center to learn and read more than 50 books about the Holocaust. Her boss was so picky that he made her do some scenes over 40 times because he was so picky. They didn't tell the players about a scary scene in which the Nazis stormed the annex, so it felt real. Diane was really scared, and it came through in her performance. It paid off for her to work hard. She was even up for a Golden Globe for her very first movie. Diane made a very different movie called Journey to the Center of the Earth after this one. It was a big action movie, and she had a bigger part in it. She trained for 6 weeks before she could climb rocks. Even an ice bridge that fell apart hurt her in one scene, but she kept going. The scenes under the water were also hard. Diane had to take swimming lessons before the movie shoot because she didn't know how to do it. She was in the cold water for hours, but it was worth it. People really liked the movie when it came out in December 1959. It made a lot of money, and Diane showed that she could act in more than just serious roles. The best of everything, a movie about women trying to make it in New York that same year, had her as the lead. Nicole played a young woman who had big hopes, but had to deal with a lot of problems. She worked with star actor Joan Crawford, who was known for being tough. Crawford hit Diane hard in one scene, but Diane kept her cool and kept going. At the time, the movie dealt with important issues like pregnancy and relationships, which made it brave and easy to understand. The movie got good reviews when it came out because Diane was great at playing emotional parts. She was already known as a star by the end of 1959. For Most Promising Newcomer, she was up for a Golden Globe. She didn't win, but the fact that she was nominated showed how good she was. After that, she got a lot of offers, and Life magazine even put her on the cover. Diane was up for the Golden Globe Award 3 times in just 1 year. She went from not being known to being one of the most exciting new names in Hollywood. Janet did something brave in 1962. She met behind closed doors with executives from MGM and Paramount, 2 competing companies, to talk about other options. When a Fox executive walked in out of the blue during the meeting at Los Angeles' Chasen's restaurant, it almost became public. She hid in the kitchen of the restaurant for more than an hour, so she wouldn't be caught. She was so desperate to get out of her contract that she did this dangerous thing. By 1963, she was the most unhappy she had ever been. She didn't show up to the prize set because she was given a bad part to play opposite Paul Newman. Because she was defiant, she was suspended without pay for 2 weeks and had to pay $5,000, which was a lot of money at the time. But it made the studio very aware of something. In 1964, Diane's lawyer found a hole in her contract, which was the turning point. Fox missed the date to renew her option, which let her talk about getting out of her contract. The talks were very heated for 72 hours, and in the early hours of August 20th, 1964, Diane signed the papers that freed her. She was finally free from Fox and ready to begin a new life as a solo performer. Diane's work outside of Fox took her in interesting new ways. She played the lead in 9 Hours to Rama in 1963, which was a tough part that needed her to film in India. She got diarrhea while filming and lost 15 pounds in just 10 days. The director praised her hard work for the long hours she put in the very hot weather. She was nominated for a BAFTA for Most Promising Newcomer because of how well she played the part. In the 1962 movie 300 Spartans, she played Ellis, a Spartan woman, and trained for months by running and fighting every day. In a famous scene, she had to dance while holding a water jug on her head. It took her 37 tries to get it right. Even though these parts weren't big hits, they showed how versatile and talented she was. Diane also made a name for herself on TV. In 1961, she made her first TV appearance on Route 66. Her performance got a lot of attention and led to more TV parts. In 1967, she played a small-town nurse in a scary situation in the pilot episode of the science fiction show The Invaders. Her performance was praised for having a lot of emotional depth. She was in a 3-episode run of Mission in 1970. She was the only guest star in the history of the show to be in a plot that spanned more than 1 episode. She was nominated for an Emmy for this part. Diane continued to impress with guest roles, including a standout part as a struggling alcoholic on Columbo. Her performance felt real and raw because she had been to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings to prepare. Diane had a big role in Tess of the Storm Country, 1960, before she left Fox. It was a big moment in her career. The part wasn't hers at first. It happened after Millie Perkins, another actor, turned it down. There were many problems with the production, like heavy rains that slowed down shooting and made it necessary to change important scenes. Even with these problems, Diane gave a great performance, and reviewers loved how she and co-star Jack Jing worked together. In spite of not doing well at the box office, the movie was very important in helping her get a better deal with Fox. It was already clear that Diane was a flexible and skilled actress by the time she started working as a freelancer. Breaking away from the studio system was a brave choice that made it possible for other actors who want more control over their jobs to attain the same level of freedom. She was cast in Marnie, 1964, in a way that made it feel like a surprise. She got the part without reading the book first. It may sound strange, but Alfred Hitchcock liked to do things in his own unique way. Diane was sitting in the kitchen of Alfred Hitchcock and his wife Alma in Brentwood one day in 1963. They ate peaches and talked about his new movie. Nicole, who was only 25, had already been in films like Journey to the Center of the Earth and The Diary of Anne Frank. She was thrilled when Hitchcock asked her to play the part. It didn't matter what her part was. It was such an honor to work with him that she just said yes. In the end, she said, "I'm going to do it no matter what." It wasn't just Diane, who didn't know what was going on. Tippi Hedren, who played the lead in the movie, didn't know much about her part either when she was cast. Hitchcock liked to throw his players off guard. He thought that if they didn't know too much, it would make their acts seem more real. A lot of the time, he didn't tell the group much about the scenes they were going to film. On set, this made things tense and exciting, just like the movie's tension. In the movie Marnie, Diane played the mysterious Lil Mainwaring. In the story, Lil was married to Sean Connery's sister, but she was more than that. Diane gave Lil's character a lot of depth and interest. Lil seemed interested in Mark Rutland, played by Sean Connery, but she also seemed interested in Marnie in a strange way. It made a triangle of feelings that kept things interesting. "I'm queer for liars" is something Lil says in a scene that some reviewers think she might have said to Marnie in a way that was both funny and serious, implying that she had feelings for her. The way Alfred Hitchcock made Marnie was just as strange as the movie itself. Everyone was shocked when he showed up on the set on August 12, 1963, the first day of filming, wearing a gorilla mask. His strange beginning set the tone for his unique style. Hitchcock would often give actors strange directions right before they went on camera, which threw them off. Before a sad scene with Tippi Hedren on September 3rd, he told Sean Connery to think of a purple cow. This made Connery feel lost, but it gave his act a raw, unexpected quality. Hitchcock was in charge of everything on the set. On September 18th, he asked Diane Baker to walk down a hallway 47 times because he wanted her steps to fit a beat he had imagined. It took a lot of work to plan even the colors of the set. Hitchcock used 12 shades of gray to change the mood of the audience without them even realizing it. To reach this level of perfection, the cast and team had to work 16-hour days or weeks. Hitchcock also used shocking techniques to get real responses. On October 7th, Baker quickly let 200 live mice onto the set during a very important scene between Baker and Hedren. The chaos and screams that followed were so real that they were left in the movie as a whole. Even though these methods were controversial, they made the movie feel more tense and psychological. On the other hand, things were very bad between Hitchcock and Tippi Hedren behind the scenes. When they worked together on The Birds in 1963, things went well, but when they worked on Marnie, things went badly. Hedren found out on July 15, 1964, that Hitchcock had changed her dressing room to look exactly like her bedroom at home, right down to the personal items she had in there. This breach of privacy was just the start. During filming, Hitchcock insisted on one-on-one coaching meetings that often went late into the night. During these, he made direct approaches and talked about inappropriate fantasies. He is said to have tried to force himself on Hedren in his car on August 23rd. She flatly turned him down, but this caused a permanent break in their work relationship. During the rest of the shoot, Hitchcock wouldn't talk to Hedren directly. Instead, he had crew members tell her what to do. She couldn't stand the set because of his silent anger. She also had a mental breakdown on September 12th. The movie stopped for 3 days. Hedren had to finish the movie because she signed a contract, even though the working conditions were bad. The event left her with deep scars. Hitchcock hurt her career by using his power to keep her from getting big roles for years. At the same time, Diane Baker thought that Hitchcock might be trying to make her his next main lady. On June 3, 1964, early in the shooting process, Hitchcock asked her to a private dinner at Chasen's, a well-known Beverly Hills restaurant. He asked her a lot of private things. She even got him to draw her movie ideas on a serviette. Baker started to notice unusual behavior on the set. She had a dressing room that was too big for her, costumes that were too fancy for her part, and regular invitations to watch daily footage with Hitchcock, which other cast members weren't allowed to do. But Baker didn't like all the attention. On August 9th, Hitchcock surrounded her on the set and said rude things about how she looked. After this meeting, she wasn't sure what he was trying to do. As shooting ended on October 17th, Baker was torn between wanting to be a star and being afraid of what it would cost to work so closely with Hitchcock. He thought about working with her on future projects like a movie version of Mary Rose, but their business relationship never went any further. Marnie itself was new and caused a lot of debate. It talked about tough issues like sexual abuse, mental illness, and even rape in the marriage. People didn't like the movie when it came out on July 22, 1964. The Production Code Office turned down the script at first because it had sexual material, so Hitchcock had to make 18 changes, such as softening the rape scene and removing references to traumatic events in childhood. Even with these changes, the movie still made a stir. At one screening, people left during the scene that seemed to involve raping a spouse. In San Francisco, 37 women held a protest outside the movie theater with signs saying they didn't like how the movie made rape look good. The National Organization for Women spoke out against the movie in public on August 3rd for the way it hurtfully shows how sexual women are and how men should be dominant. The critics were split. Some people, like Bosley Crowther of the New York Times, thought it was silly and disgusting. Others, like Andrew Sayers of the Village Voice, said it had a lot of psychological depth and was very smart in a delicate way. Even though it got mixed reviews, the movie didn't do well at the box office, making only $7 million compared to its $3 million budget. But Marnie learned to value things more over time. It was called one of the best films ever by reviewers and directors by 2012. After Marnie, Diane Baker's career was full of exciting times. In 1965, she was in the movie Mirage with Gregory Peck. This movie came out just 1 year after her part in Marnie by Hitchcock, and a big step for her. It felt strange because the movie was shot in black and white. Diane played the role Sheila, who made everyone wonder what she was up to. Diane learned from a real private investigator in New York City for 2 weeks to get ready. In the northeastern U.S., there was a big power outage while they were filming. To finish their work, the group had to use backup generators. Because of this, the director added even more dark parts to the movie to make it more exciting. People thought Diane's acting was smart and interesting when the movie came out. Some people even wanted her to work with Gregory Peck again because they got along so well. It didn't happen, though. When Inherit the Wind was made into a TV show that same year, Diane had another big part. In this story, a teacher was put on trial for teaching evolution. It was based on a true story. Nicole played Rachel Brown, the daughter of a preacher who was torn between her love for the teacher and her duty to her father. To get ready, Diane studied Tennessee history for weeks in the place where the first trial took place. The drama was raised by the fact that the show was shot in a real courthouse during a heat wave. Diane was nominated for an Emmy for her work. The judges said she was great at making people feel things on screen, even though she didn't win. Diane was in the last episode of The Fugitive in 1967, which was one of the most watched TV shows of all time. She played Jean Carlisle, a figure who helped Dr. Richard Kimball finally show that he was not guilty. It was a big secret how the show ended. Signed agreements to keep quiet were given to players, and scripts were printed on special paper to keep them from getting out. Diane and David Jansen, who played Kimball, worked together a lot to practice their parts and make their relationship seem real. People really liked her act, and after the show aired, she got thousands of fan letters. She took a chance and became a producer in the 1980s. Her first project was an independent movie called Neverland, which she paid for by taking out a mortgage on her house. In 1984, the miniseries A Woman of Substance made her a big star. This show was a huge undertaking, with filming taking place on 3 countries and more than 200 speaking parts. Diane sold the show to 17 countries before it was even filmed, which made it possible. The show was a big hit, and she was nominated for an Emmy, and giving young Liam Neeson his big break in the acting world. Diane kept working on important projects. In 1987, she worked on the TV show Little Miss Perfect, which was about eating disorders in teens. This was a subject that was close to her heart because she had problems with her body image when she was an actress. She took on a huge task in 1989 when she made Hollywood, The Golden Years, a documentary about the history of Hollywood. For this project, they fixed up old footage and talked to over 100 veterans of the film business. When it came out in 1990, reviewers praised it as a lovely ode to Hollywood. Diane Baker had a great love life and a great job. Her boyfriend at the time, Warren Beatty, was about to become a big star in 1959. She had just started working as an actress, and the two of them were the talk of Hollywood. People saw them at fancy spots like Chasen's, where they met famous people like Cary Grant. Their relationship was short, but strong. Later, Diane said Warren was too sweet to pass up, but he couldn't stay true to her. After only a few months, they broke up. Nicole Langella fell in love with Frank Langella in 1977 while they were both working on the play Dracula. Both on stage and off, they got along so well. It was 3 years that everyone in Hollywood loved them. Their love of playing brought them together, and they often worked together. But they couldn't stay together because of their jobs, and broke up in 1980. They stayed friends after that, and worked together in another movie after that. People have always been curious about why Diane never got married. She said she didn't feel ready to get married. She liked having her own time and space and wanted to focus on her job. This was a brave choice in the 1960s and 1970s, when most actors felt like they had to get married. Diane could play parts she might not have had the chance to play if she had been single, like having an enticing role in the movie Marnie. It also let her work for months in places like Rome. It wasn't easy, though. She was criticized a lot in the news, and some people in Hollywood were mean to her. Still, Diane never felt bad about what she did. She said she was happy with the way she lived her life. Making work and life work together wasn't easy for Diane. She was in more than 50 films and a huge number of TV shows. She had so many things to do that she hardly had time to see her family. She was hospitalized one time because she was so tired after working on 3 films in a row. Diane tried hard to get things in balance. Not many people asked for personal days in their contracts back then. She also let her sister visit the set and gave her small parts in films. She took a year off in 1978 to rest, spend time with her family, and learn photography in Paris. She did some of her best work after this break because it made her stronger. Diane played an important part on the TV show House in her later years. She played Dr. Gregory House's mother, Blythe House. Between 2005 and 2012, Diane was only in 4 shows. But her personality made a big difference. In her first episode, she was shown to be a loving mother who had no idea what was going on between her son and his dad. She told a shocking family secret in her last show that changed everything for House. Critics and fans both loved her performance because she showed so much feeling in such a short amount of time. In 2004, Diane Baker began working as a teacher at the Academy of Art University. It started out as a guest talk but quickly turned into a full-time job. She lived there for more than 15 years and taught young people how to act and make films. She first met Elisa Stevens, the president of the school, at a film event. Stevens hired Diane right away because he liked how eager Diane was to share what she knew. Diane taught in a very different way from the start. During her first term, she brought a Real tiger into the classroom as a surprise for her students. The tiger was there to teach them how to keep their cool and concentrate when things get tough. This crazy idea worked, and the next year she had more people sign up for her acting lessons. Some of Diane's fun tasks were making her students write, film, and edit a short movie in just one day. These projects brought out the best in her kids, even though they were hard work. Insomnia in San Francisco, one of the films, even won a student Emmy in 2009. Diane went even further in 2011. For a whole week, she made her kids stay in character. No matter what class they were in, they had to always act like their roles. This caused some crazy events, like when a student pretending to be Lady Macbeth walked in a math class and gave a dramatic speech. At Fisherman's Wharf, another student dressed as a gangster and scared people. Even though it sounded crazy, most of the students loved it and said it helped them become better players. When 2008 came around, Diane was given the job of running 2 big departments, the School of Acting and the School of Motion Pictures and Television. She made big changes in her new job. In 2012, she had the crazy thought of building a huge Hollywood simulator. The building cost $12 million and felt and looked like a real movie set. For practice, students worked on sound stages, walked red carpets, and even dealt with fake reporters. Diane wanted them to feel like they were ready for Hollywood. The Rejection Resilience Program is what she came up with in 2015. Students were given fake rejects and harsh feedback to help them get ready for the challenges of working as an actor. It was tough, but it worked. A lot of students said it made them stronger and better able to deal with problems. They had to give up their phones and computers for a month in 2018. In its place, they met in person and worked together to remember lines in the old-fashioned way. Even though it was hard, it brought them closer together and helped them do better. Diane got ideas for how to teach from her time working with Alfred Hitchcock. She once made the set from Psycho's Bates Motel again, to let kids learn by doing. She also made up surprise scenarios that put students in scary, stressful situations they weren't expecting. Someone in the class thought their scene partner was really having a heart attack and had to make things up on the spot. These times pushed the kids to give honest and powerful performances. Diane thought that you should work hard and plan ahead. For every hour they worked, she told them to spend 100 hours. To help with this, she built the Baker Bunker, a gym that is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Kids had to wait in queue to use it because it was so popular. Diane talked about her feelings about Hollywood in the past few years. Some people didn't agree with her that many new films don't have as much depth as older ones, but she kept positive. She helped make Hollow Actor in 2020. Students could play with AI versions of famous Hollywood stars like Audrey Hepburn in a program. In 2019, she also began a project called the Global Narrative Initiative. This project urged students to tell stories from cultures other than their own.